Welcome back to Here's the Takeaway podcast. I'm your host, Kim Bindle. Looking forward to connecting with our guest today because he is a friend of WBCL. When you listen to WBCL's morning show, you hear his voice when he covers for CJ for traffic and news. However, during his day job, he is a great leader to a beautiful organization. Please welcome to the podcast President and CEO of Goodwill Industries of Northeast Indiana, Kevin Morse.
Hey, Kim. How are you doing here today?
It is so good to be with you because we're friends.
Yes, we are.
So here's the thing. It's so interesting to me. You started out in radio. In fact, you were on WOWO?
I was on WOWO. That's what actually brought me to Fort Wayne in '96. Back in those days, I was a farm broadcaster. And so I was talking to the farm communities, and I started at WOC in Davenport, Iowa. And WOWO gave me a call, said, come give us a try. And I moved my family out here and spent 8.5 years with them doing farm and then regular news, which obviously led to open the door here at WBCL many years later. So,
And so you just couldn't get away from radio.
I couldn't. You know, it's not my full-time gig, but
Right.
it's a lot of fun. So I keep my toe in the pool,
Awesome.
so to speak.
So why Goodwill? How did this come to be?
Well, you know, you look back at my resume, and my wife does this one. You know, your resume is crazy. You were in retail. You worked for Target when it was a little tiny company. Then you worked at John Deere for 3 years because that was kind of the family business. My dad, my uncles, and that. Then I went to work for Best Buy Company when they were a little tiny company, only had 20 stores.
Oh, wow.
And then I got the radio bug. And that's when I went to a tech school and learned all about radio. I actually taught at that tech school for a while for studio type of things for the students, and found my way into slowly. Back in those days, you worked a lot of part-time gigs, worked 4 jobs simultaneously, and then you find your way into full-time radio. And had a lot of fun with that while it lasted. But I knew with the technology coming in, I'd never retire from it. And so when that day came that they decided they only needed one news director for the entire northern tier of Indiana for that company, that bigger company, I went back into retail and did 14 years with Walmart as a senior manager. And then from there, when Walmart decided that 3,500 of us needed to go away to change the payroll, I was a senior manager. Then I got a chance to work for Greater Fort Wayne, Inc. here in Allen County. And my job was to be the director of disability initiatives. So I worked for them with employers in the community on why I hired people with disabilities. And when you do that for 4.5 years and you're working out in the community, and all of a sudden somebody knocks on your door, happens to be the young lady right next door who was on the board of directors at Goodwill, and she says, "Kevin, we have an opening for president and CEO. Do you know anybody who might want to do that?" And I wasn't going to bite on that first.
Right.
And I said, "Well, I don't know. Give me the particulars on the job. Give me the full job description. I'll see who I know." And she goes, "You're going to make me do this, aren't you?" And I said, "What?" She goes, "We need you to apply for the job."
Wow.
And that was the middle of 2022. And did the interviews, found myself being hired, and started in November of 22.
What a compliment to you, seeing the good work that you're doing. It's always that really beautiful reminder that every step has purpose.
It does.
Even though you were all over the map with your resume, God set you up. I mean, it sounds like a perfect setup to going into Goodwill. You kind of touched on it, but I want to kind of dig into it just a little bit. When you talk about helping folks with special needs be employed, to feel like they have purpose. Talk about that. Where's that come from?
Well, you know, all those years of working in retail and having to hire people, I discovered something. That the ones who had some type of special need, that had a disability, had some barrier to employment, tended to be a better employee for us. Or at Walmart, we called them associates. And the real example came when we would have one of those really bad snowstorms come through. And so I would stay in a hotel because I worked in Kendallville the last 6 years for that company. So I'd come over from the hotel a little before 7, hoping that somebody showed up because that store is going to be open no matter what. And there'd be like 6 people there, and 3 of them were the ones who were special needs hires. And they found a way to get to work. And they were there to do their job, to help the customer the best they could, and to help me, manage that early part of the day. And that was just something that stuck in my brain. That here's a group of people who know how important it is to step up and do the right thing in life. And so then when I moved to Greater Fort Wayne, Inc., my job was to teach that to employers to say, hey, listen, this was my experience, and this is why you should hire somebody with disabilities. The statistics are all there, but you got to get people to open their eyes, and that's what Goodwill's all about. And most people do not understand that.
Yeah, and that leads to me to the next question I was going to ask you, because most people, when we all think of Goodwill, unless, if we're not working for you, we think, okay, I got to go through the closet again and get rid of a few of my coats and my my shoes or whatever, and drop that off, and that's kind of the end of it. But you've just touched on it's much deeper than that. It's much more important. What is the impact of Goodwill beyond people dropping off the things that they no longer use?
People have no idea unless they've really had a chance to look behind that so-called curtain. You see Goodwill, you see the stores. There are stores nationwide. And let me set the stage first. People get a perception that we're a giant company. We are not. We are 151 independent 501c3 corporations.
Okay.
We have our own independent board of directors. So while we are nationwide, we're a federation, not a company, not a franchise. So right here in Northeast Indiana, we cover 9 counties, and those are the folks we're dealing with. And so those donations that come in that back door do more than just put money in my pocket, so to speak. A lot of crazy stuff on social media about how much I get paid, et cetera. But, those are old stories. But that product coming into the store sets the stage for the income we generate from the 8 stores here in Northeast Indiana and our e-commerce division, which is open 24/7. So you can shop there anytime you want. That's shopgoodwill.com.
Okay.
/Fort Wayne. That's important. That's ours. There's Shop Goodwills all over the country. But that money funnels into a much bigger project. We're nonprofits, so we catch a break on taxes and that type of stuff, but we still need to raise as much as we can to fund that bottom line. We have 2 departments especially that play into this. One is our Employment Services Department. Employment Services takes vocational rehab referrals. So the state of Indiana is working with people who know they've got some type of issue that they need help with to find employment. So they get referred to us. We have the right to accept or reject. We seldom reject somebody. And then our staff goes to work helping them to find their way to a job. And a lot of stuff goes into we talk skills, we talk what you like or don't like. They start teaching how to do applications, resumes, how to physically go to apply for a job, how to find out where the openings are. And if that all falls together correctly, our employment services staff then helps to connect with employers in the community. And that's how I, as an employer, got people from Goodwill, was that they reached out to me and said, Kevin, this is what we're dealing with. Can we work out something here? And from there, that connection helps to lead them to their first job for most of them. And then that helps them go to a better job. And if all comes together to a career. And that's what we're trying to build. And we're not talking about jobs that pay minimum wage. We're not talking about jobs that are like waitresses to get this little tiny amount you got to earn it through tips. We're talking about jobs with competitive wages. And a few of the folks we've handled, people with serious degrees like doctors and lawyers, have come through our programs because of things that have happened to them in their life. They're going into really well-paid jobs that we help facilitate. That's the stuff that people don't see. It's a big part of it. On the other side of the aisle is our pre-ETS department. That's Pre-Employment Transition Services. That is aimed specifically at high school students from age 14 to 22 that are enrolled in high school or they're enrolled in college the first couple of years. And the same thing going on there. We help my staff. It's like a teaching staff. They are in the schools, and the students come to them, and they help them with the same kind of skills. How do you do a resume? How do you apply for a job? What it's like to go on and find an electronic way to apply. And plus, we do different things like a summer program for the kids from the high school where they'll go out and work, and they get paid a stipend all summer long to work for up and do projects for the Butler Parks Department or working somewhere as a group, or even the Disabilities Expo. They come and help us with the games section. They get paid to be there, so they get those experiences. They get to deal with a paycheck for the first time. And so that's what our funding does. It's for all my support staff that helps to run those programs. And it's a lot going on behind the scenes.
It sounds like it. So it's not just being employed in a Goodwill store.
No.
It's working with organizations and individuals, entrepreneurs, to collaborate and create jobs, or is that kind of how it goes? A lot of different things
come into play. What we're looking for is our first choice is a community position out there working for one of our local businesses in the area that's not us.
Okay.
Now, we do have some folks that do come to us because that's where their skill set is.
Mm-hmm.
But we employ about 240 people here in Northeast Indiana, most of those in our retail division. Those people come from all walks of life, all skill sets. And we bring people in anywhere from people that are clerking at the front to stocking shelves to all the way to our store managers. Our operations center, people who drive trucks. You know, we got over the road truck drivers that are hauling stuff around for us, that run the salvage operation for us. So a lot of skill sets there internally, but we try to get them out in the community first.
That is awesome.
You know,
So thinking about that, and having been there a little while now, what is a story that comes to mind for you that actually just hit your heartstring, of how it impacted another person without, if you didn't want to share their name, that's fine too. But is there a story that just kind of sits in your
there's
heart?
one that really sits there. And this is when I was a co-manager in the Kendallville Walmart. And I actually had a booth at the Disabilities Expo at the request of one of my now current employees, my chief missions officer. And I got to meet some of the staff from Goodwill. And they said, we have somebody up in your area who's looking for work, wants to work in the apparel area and just isn't fitting in where they're currently at. And then the person who now, once again, the other person who works for us at Goodwill said, this person has a difficult time interviewing. I said, okay, well, let's change the interview process. And I said, bring her into the store and we'll talk. I said, I've got some openings, probably not exactly what she wants, but we'll talk about it. So she brought this young lady into the store. And what we did is we have a thing called the racetrack in a Walmart store. That's that big outside aisle that goes all the way around the store.
Right.
I said, we're going to start in the back and we're going to walk around that. And I'm just going to talk with her. And she was able to loosen up and answer my questions. And the employment specialist was about 10 steps behind us just in case they needed to assist me.
Right.
When we finished, I said, listen, I would like to hire you. I really would. The job you're looking for isn't currently open. She wanted to work in apparel part-time. And I'm like, I have a people greeter spot open, but I think that's a great place for you to start, settle into the Walmart system, learn to work with people. And if you do a good job there, I promise you, if you do a good job there,
Right.
I'll get you to apparel. And sure enough, 6-7 months later, we moved her to apparel part-time. And anybody out there that currently works in Walmart apparel is going to kind of grimace at me when I say this, but my apparel ladies can be kind of grouchy. Okay, they work in the department. And why? Because people come in and tear up their department, leave clothing laying all over the floor, and they've got to clean it up. And I feel for them, but I kind of avoided them. So just that was my personality, and I smile and go. But this young lady, when she moved into apparel, not only did she do a good job at taking care of the apparel racks and stocking, but she brought those smiles out of those apparel department managers. And suddenly they weren't grumpy anymore because they had somebody with them who wanted to do the job, was doing a great job, and that eventually worked her way into full time within that system. And that's just one that just really, I have a picture of her in my office at Goodwill. Just that means that much to me, that I know that she came to me from Goodwill, that she did a fantastic job and made something for herself by her own willingness to dig in and do what she needed to do.
Wow. Kevin, you have such a talent and a gift for seeing the potential in someone and encouraging them. I know you've encouraged me and the rest of the staff here at WBCL. We just appreciate you so much. I'm just curious, when you think about God's call on your life and what he's, put you on this planet to do, with all of these beautiful things going on and connecting with people the way you do, not just getting them a job, but kind of some self-respect and even some self-confidence, all of those things. What is it you think that God has put in your heart on this whole thing?
I look back over the years, and first off, I got to tell the story of how I even got into a Christian lifestyle. God kept putting young ladies in front of me who either were going to church or their dad was a pastor. Or their dad was the evangelism committee chairman. And that's 3 girlfriends in my life. One was in 7th and 8th grade. And that was I was going to the Baptist church at the time. And so we became friends, and then boyfriend, girlfriend, that typical 7th, 8th grade kind of thing. We only saw each other at church events, had a lot of fun with that. And then she moved away, didn't see much of her. The next young lady was a senior in high school. Her dad was a pastor of a Foursquare Tabernacle Church in my hometown.
Okay.
And he was pretty rigid. So, but once again, there was God's calling. Hey, Kevin, you need to pay attention to me here.
Right.
And of course, she went to college. I went a different direction. And then over the summer, I ran into Kathy, who is now my wife. And one night we were talking, and she looked at me and she goes, if you had to stand before Jesus tonight, and explain to him why you deserved eternal life in heaven, what would that be? I had no answer.
Wow.
I did not have an answer.
Wow.
And it struck me, and I said, "Oh, I got to open my eyes here a little bit and think about this."
Mm.
And then she introduced me to her dad, was the chairman of the evangelism committee at a Lutheran church in our hometown, and it blossomed from there. And I was drawn into the church, and I was so fascinated by what I was being taught. But there's nothing more intimidating than having your confirmation as an adult being taught one-on-one with a senior pastor who's been around since the dawn of time. and just is very straightforward on things. That was quite an experience for me, but I
Right.
learned a lot from him. And so much so he was trying to prod me to go to preaching school, but I wasn't ready for that.
Oh, okay.
But
You could have added that to your
yeah,
resume, Kevin.
I could have. The nice thing is now, having been an elder, having been a vice chairman of a congregation here in Fort Wayne,
Mm-hmm.
I've gotten to work with the pastors very closely.
Right.
And the pastors at our church are just incredible people.
Mm.
And I feed off of that energy that they have. I'm a people person anyway. You've probably figured it out from sitting in
Mhm.
across the window from
Definitely.
me there.
Mhm.
I've got a degree in human resources. So I'm just in that mix, and God has been able to, turn my heart that direction and help me
Mm.
help people in the best way that I can. Sometimes
Mm.
it's just listening to them.
Right.
My staff now say, I just need to vent. Okay, go ahead and vent. I'm here.
Nice.
And other people say, Kevin, I got some struggles. I don't know how to handle them. The
Mm.
only thing I really wish, is that Goodwill started as a faith-based organization. Pastor Helms, back in 1902 in Boston, Massachusetts, started with his church, collecting items, fixing them up, and then
Mm.
giving them to people that needed it. And then it grew into a situation where they started doing the stores and that type of thing. But over the years, not that it's lost its faith center, because those of us on staff still have that,
Right.
but people don't know it as a faith-based organization, and we're not
Right.
listed that way.
Mhm.
But if you walk in my office, there are things all around you that I'm a serious person with faith. There's a wooden
Mm.
cross laying on my desk. There are
Mm.
things all around that office. And it's just a reminder to me that when people walk into my office, or I walk into their office even, that I need to be the person that God wants me to be, and to
Mm.
make sure that I'm listening, and I'm not
Yeah.
predetermining what that conversation is going to be about, and just let life roll.
Well, God put you with the right woman. That
Yes, she
is
did.
amazing. And
Mhm.
she knew exactly what she was looking for, too.
Yes.
How long have you guys been married?
We were 47 this last
Aw.
November, so been around a while.
That is
And
amazing.
I love her too, because she's got so much energy.
Mhm.
First off, she has a master's in parks and recreation. She's a rec therapist, so she works with people with disabilities. I learned my disability skills from her over the last 40 years, because she has this knack. When she gets involved in a project, I get pulled into it.
Oh, yeah.
And
Okay.
so that was a teaching, learning experience for me over all those years. And then, so when I was in that position at Walmart and had to hire people with disabilities, she was my consultant. Hey, okay, I'm dealing with this. What do I
Mhm.
do? Because she'd been doing that for so long. And today, I admire her for, not only does she work crazy schedule dealing with her clients one-on-one
Mhm.
as a contractor with the state of Indiana doing rec therapy, she has the time to be an altar guild at church. She has the time to be a children's leader at Bible Study Fellowship.
Wow.
And then she pulled me into that this year. So I'm with a men's group, which has been
great.
incredible, with having that support group around us. So,
Mhm.
it's just that, looking back at my life and growing up in the Baptist church and getting the seeds of things there, but
Mhm.
growing in my faith and the things that I've learned through all the different sources.
Yes.
And then one day when I'm sitting in a production studio here with Ron Schneeman, we're recording. It was back when we started the Record Your Own Day sponsor. My wife
Okay.
and I have been day sponsors for
Yeah.
quite a while. He goes, have you do anything in radio these days? I said, well, I'm volunteering at the reading service at the library. He goes, no, radio. I said, not really. He goes, would you like to? And it kind of
Aw.
piqued my interest, and he invited me to do weekends. And I took Sunday mornings, did that a couple times a month. And it's just amazing being around this station with the impact of that music and the air staff and the
Mm.
willingness to pray on air and that type of stuff, that just kind of really pulls you back into it every single day.
Right. Well, you are a jack of all trades. Do all
Yes, I am.
kinds of fun stuff, and really do appreciate you. Before we go, one of the things that I wanted to ask you is, we talk about, going through our stuff, going through our closet and getting rid of things and sending them off to Goodwill. What are some things, practical things, beyond that we as a community can do to rally behind Goodwill?
There's a lot of ways to help us. And there's a lot of ways you can not only help us, but help the sustainability of our planet. A lot of people don't realize that we have a contract with Dell Computer. It's called Dell Reconnect. So if you've got old computer gear at home, you can bring that to us. We do not charge a fee to receive that. And anything that connects to a computer or a cell phone or a video game console, if you've got old electronics and you bring that to us, we gather that together, and we have a dedicated truck on our dock, and it all goes on there. And when that truck's full, then it gets shipped off to Dell, and Dell recycles it, which is an amazing savings for our planet. It helps Dell with their goal of for every computer they sell that they recycle one out, but also helps us because we do get reimbursed some cash for that. People don't realize that. Also, too, we'll take anything you want to give us that isn't the mattress or the bed bugs. That was over the top. We won't talk about that. But anything else we'll take, because even people say they sort their stuff. This stuff's going in the trash and this stuff's going to Goodwill. No. Send it all to us, because we're going to do that same process.
Right.
And the stuff that we can't sell or it doesn't sell, it gets baled in these gigantic 1,500-pound bales that we sell to brokers, and they go out for a lot of different things around the world. And so some third world countries, that clothing becomes very important to them.
Right.
We do that with shoes.
Wow.
A lot of stuff like that. So beyond just running our programs here, we're helping the world in a lot of different ways.
A lot of different ways. That's fantastic. I am curious, though, what is the strangest or most, I don't know, odd thing that you've ever seen come through the door at Goodwill?
Oh, I can talk nationally because we get this stuff all the time. There was a human skull that showed up in one donation. Yes. Yeah. There was a live grenade that showed up in another one. Fortunately, not us. With us here, it's like finding $3,000 in a pants pocket. Found money, as we call it. So that money gets set aside and it gets locked down, and we wait to see if somebody comes back to claim it. Well, they don't.
Right.
And plus, it's in a random pair of blue jeans. We don't know what store it came from because all that stuff, ends up in a central location. So after a while, it goes into our fund, and it gets used for our programs.
Okay.
Usually it's nickels, dimes, quarters, but once in a while you find a pretty good.
You get $3,000.
Or something really fun. The store, we're getting ready to open a store at Georgetown. We've been working on this project since March of last year. We're moving in actually right now, but there were some light fixtures on the wall. They were really outdated. It used to be the old Steinmart building that we're in. So we got these old, outdated light fixtures around the fitting room area, and we didn't want them. So we took them down, and we sent them over to our Shop Goodwill system, and they sold a couple of those for about $500.
Wow.
Somebody found it in their heart to buy these items, these antique lamps, and bless us with that, to go to our program. So those kind of things are really kind of cool.
One man's junk is another man's treasure.
This is definitely the case of that with Goodwill.
Yeah.
It really is.
Wow. Well, this has been educational for me to learn so much more about Goodwill beyond what we thought we knew. And so, Kevin, thank you so much for being here today. Thank you for all that you do, both for Goodwill and for WBCL. Thank you.
It's all my pleasure, and thank you for having me.
Thanks for being here today. Hope you have a beautiful day, and go through your closet. Maybe it's time to head over to Goodwill.